All right, guys, we're back. Episode number 72 of the Daru Strong Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Daru. Today we have my guy, Tyler Ray, is in the building. Yes, if you have been watching some of the YouTube videos, that's that really jacked guy that looks kind of like Dustin Poirier, but is not. He's actually a little bit more stronger than him, I guess. Better looking. Oh, here we go. I knew that was going to happen. This is why we got to get him out. We got to get him out. We got to get him out. See this? Again. Episode number 72. I have my guest on for today, Tyler Ray. If you guys been watching the YouTube videos, that's the guy that's been putting in work and also has a fight coming up against John Doomsday Howard this weekend, so make sure you check it out. But we go back into details on how he got started and now how he's working out at Sanford MMA in one of the best premier gyms in the world for mixed martial arts. So we talk a bit about that and his future plans, so make sure you stay tuned for that in our conversation. Before we do that, I have to shout out the sponsors, Vivobarefoot.com. Vivo is the shoes that I've been rocking on my YouTube videos, Instagram, all of that there. It's a foot shoe that you can use for full foot functionality. It's also very stylish in my opinion, and also it's been able to help me with my ACL injury. So getting back into strengthening up that, getting full foot strengthening back into the foot itself, so I'm not all in the heels and I'm able to just strengthen up the soles of my feet. All right, so if you want to check it out, Vivobarefoot.com, you can check out the discount code Daru Strong and you get 10% off your final purchase. Also, if you are a coach looking to learn some of the methods, the protocols, the systems that I use with my athletes and myself, check out the mentorship program. Link is down below. It's a one-time fee. You'll get access for life. If you want to find out more details, just hop on a call with a team member of mine, and they'll go over all the details necessary for you to understand what you'll get inside of that portal. If you are a coach also and want to check out some of the fitness, business, categories and the information that we're giving out at the conference, my first ever Daru Strong Fitness Business Conference going down at the end of the year, December 11th and the 12th. You can check it out. Come to Boca Raton, Florida at my gym, Daru Strong Performance Center, and we're going to have a star-studded list of fitness business entrepreneurs and also coaches that are going to go over details on all things to get you better and to increase your business, but also increase your coaching ability. So make sure you check it out. Links down below to get your tickets or to find out more details. Now, the only thing that I have left is if you are looking to just train some of the programs, just go to my website, darustrong.com, and we have all the programs listed out for you. If you want to get stronger, want to get more powerful, want to increase your endurance, or want to stay in shape year-round with fight dominance, check it out. Links down below. Now, let's get on the podcast with Mr. Tyler Ray.
Let's go. Mind over matter. Put your mind somewhere else and keep going. That little voice in your head is trying to stop you from getting to where you want to be. Be successful and keep moving forward. With your host and world-renowned strength and conditioning coach, Phil Daru.
All right, and we're back. I don't know what episode this is, but I got my guy Tyler Ray in the building today. Finally, I got him here. He's been training with me for a while, Sanford MMA too as well. Been training with the who's who. He's finally got a big fight coming up. Tyler, let's talk a little bit about that. But first, before we do that, let's go over who you are, man. Let's talk about, the beginnings, right? I want everybody to know who you are and where you're coming from.
So, from Cincinnati, Ohio. Grew up there, born and raised. The best state in the country, Ohio.
We always have a debate, by the way. Drop the comments down below. If you're on the YouTube channel, drop the comments down below. Who do you think has better high school football? Ohio or South Florida? I don't even say full Florida. We're gonna just talk about West Palm down, bro. All right.
So anyway, grew up there, born and raised. I was one of those kids that my parents just had me in a sport every season. I was doing something different. So I was pretty athletic growing up, always doing something, football, baseball, soccer.
Yeah.
played hockey for a long time, pretty competitively. Yeah, I was on. I played for Team USA roller hockey.
Oh man, Mighty Ducks.
Yeah,
he was on the original Mighty Ducks.
Yeah. And at one point, because they do this thing called State Wars. So like you try out for your team, and then they pick the top best players in each state.
Okay.
And then every year in the summer, you come together and play all the states. In Ohio, we got third, but they have a skills competition.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up winning the sharpshooting. So at one point, I was the best shooter in the country. So don't forget about that.
All right, I'll give you that.
But anyway, so I played hockey for a long time, and then about around the age of 15, an MMA gym opened up around the corner from my house. And me and my dad used to watch UFC all the time on TV. We always loved the fighting stuff.
What year was this?
Like 2006 or 2005, 2006.
Okay. Yeah. So right around like Ultimate Fighter coming out.
Yeah, like it was really starting to blow up and pick up on TV.
Gotcha.
And we used to watch it on Spike. It was back when it was in the Spike days.
Yep.
So we watched that all the time, and I was like, Dad, can I go check out this gym? I just want to try it out, see if I like it, maybe do some cross training for MMA, or not MMA, for hockey and keep me in shape. Went in there, and I mean, after day one, it was over. I fell in love with it. I'm sorry, I thought I'd turn this thing off. So from day one, I went in there, just fell in love with it. Did jiu-jitsu, did a little boxing class, did some Muay Thai, and then kept doing it. Still played hockey for about a year.
Okay.
And then it just got to the point where I was like, I just want to go all in on this.
Wow.
So I ended up quitting hockey after like 8 years.
Wow.
Of like, from age 7 to 15, I played hockey, quit that.
Damn.
Decided to go all in on MMA. And I hadn't even started wrestling yet at this point. I just wanted to be a fighter.
Yeah.
So going into my freshman year, because I started in 8th grade, going into my freshman year of high school, me and my dad are sitting there watching a pay-per-view, and he's like, look at all these champions. They all got wrestling backgrounds. And I was like, that's it. I'm going out for the wrestling team. So I started wrestling my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
Wrestled 4 years there. And then my senior year, I had zero intentions on going to college. I just wanted to go professional as soon as I turned 18, and I was going to be a firefighter and fight professional MMA. And then I started catching my stride in wrestling, like really starting to get it. So I started getting recruited, and obviously my parents selfishly wouldn't mind me going to get a college degree. So they kind of were like, look at it as 4 more years of wrestling for your MMA. So I was like, oh, you're right. So I ended up going on to wrestling college for 4 more years.
Nice.
But before that, I had an amateur MMA fight in Kentucky. I fought some 32-year-old dude when I was 18. It was
I know
like
how that goes.
no rules, no commission. They told us to bring our own gloves, didn't check our wraps or anything. And that was fun. And dude quit after the first round, but that was like my first taste of MMA.
Nice.
And I fell in love with that. And then, so after 4 years of wrestling, I went out to Vegas to do a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Okay.
And when I was out there, I ran into Tyrone Spong. And I just went up to him to take a picture just because I was a fan of his style and who he is. And after the picture, just randomly, he goes, there's something about you. He's like, what do you do? And I told him what I was out there competing in the tournament. And he's like, do you fight? And I told him, yeah, I was like, I want to go to the UFC one day. He's like, something about you. I want you to come down and try out with us. And it was the Black Zillions. And so he gave me his phone number standing in the Starbucks at the Mandalay Bay, and I'm like looking at it. Me and my dad go walking away. I'm like, is this really his number or not? Like, do you think he's bullshitting me just trying to be nice? So I get back up to the room and like debate for like 20 minutes to text him. And I'm like, fine, I'm just going to do it. So I text him, hey, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for the time. Really looking forward to come down and train with you guys. And he got back to me right away. He's like, absolutely. As soon as I get down there, I'm going to speak with Glenn and try and set it up.
Wow.
And so then a month goes by. I don't hear anything from him. I'm like devastated. I think it's over. And like another side story is the Black Zillions was the team that I always wanted to be on. Like when I was in college, my wife, Hannah, could tell you we used to sit in the dorms and I would just watch Black Zillion videos on YouTube. And it's like, somehow I'm going to end up on this team.
That's cool.
That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
Because I knew in Cincinnati, MMA is pretty big, but to get where I wanted to go, I had to get out of there and go train with.
You got Matt Brown and you have Stipe. They're pretty much the two guys at the top.
And they're all north. They weren't even with me. The gym that I was at was George Gurgel. He fought in the UFC, and then Rich Franklin was there when he was active.
Okay, yep.
But by the time I was getting to be like of age to where it's time to start fighting, Rich was pretty much retired and so involved with one that he wasn't around.
Gotcha.
So anyways, back to this story. So Tyrone hits me up like a month later when I get back. And he says, when can you come down here? And I told my dad, he just told me, he's like, I'll fly you down tomorrow. Yeah. Like my parents have always been super supportive of this. Yeah. So I get on a flight, go down there for a week, basically come down here and get my ass beat for a week.
Now, were you his like training partner? You helping him out?
No, he just wanted me to come try out for the Black Zillions.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I guess he said he saw something in me.
Yeah. And he was coaching too, right?
Yeah.
He's coaching still.
Yeah, because he was a coach on the season for the Ultimate Fighter, and then he was around when I came down that week, and
What Ultimate Fighter was this?
It was the ATT versus Black Zillion season.
Gotcha.
And then so I came down, tried out for the week, was here, and then at the end of the week they offered to sign me to their management and to the Black Zillions.
Nice.
And so then
how old are you at this time?
At this time I'm 23.
Man.
And I still had one more year of school, so it was killing me because my dad was like, I'll support you and let you go down to Florida, but you gotta finish the school. That's our agreement.
Yeah.
So for the whole year, like whenever I had a fall break, winter break, spring break, I was coming down here training for 3 days or a week at a time.
Where were you training while you were in college, though?
So I was wrestling, and then I would go to train with George at JG MMA at his academy, and then.
And they knew all about it. They knew that you were going down to Black Zillions and everything.
Once I signed, they knew I was coming down there, and they were all happy and supportive for me because they all knew at the end of the day that
you got to
get out.
Yeah,
they all did similar things. George left and came there and whatnot, but. So yeah, I moved. I finished that year of school. We had a graduation / going away party that turned into an engagement party as well because that night I had my car packed up.
Dope.
I graduate on a Saturday. Car's packed up. Asked Hannah to marry me that night.
Yeah.
We get in the car and drive down to Sunday or on Sunday the next day, and we've been down here since
Hannah's
then.
a lifer, man.
She's in it. Like she's huge props to her because she is like my backbone. And it's hard to put it into words. Like I mean, you guys know, like other people know, like when you have somebody like that that's just a ride or die for your goals. Like she had a whole career and everything set up in Cincinnati and just left it to come down here and support me. So that's just how I knew she's a real one.
See that? Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. That's a good story.
Yeah, that's a.
We gotta get Hannah on one time.
Yeah, I know.
Shout out to Hannah, by the way.
She's been through a lot with me. But yeah, so that's that, and I've been down here for it's coming up on 5 years now. And we were the Black Zillions, and we bounced around. We were Combat Club, Hard Knocks, and now we've got our gym in Deerfield, Sanford MMA. But I've been with Henry Hooft and Greg Jones and all those guys the whole time. Yeah. And but
how do you think? We'll get back to the story, but I just want to ask you about Henry. What do you think about him that makes him so special as a coach?
It's well, I mean, his favorite thing that he loves to say is "kiss." Keep it simple, stupid. But I mean, that's really all it is in MMA. A lot of times, guys try and overcomplicate things and make everything too complex and stuff. But the way Henry teaches us and like his whole system is very simple, but it's effective. And you see our guys going out there in fights and just taking dudes out with his very simple, effective striking. And it's never overcomplicated. You don't have to think too much. But at the same time, you can tell that Henry really cares.
Yeah, sure. No,
like
definitely.
When I'm around him and he's coaching, like he actually cares. He's really investing his time. Sure. He's come and cornered me when I had no money to pay him. Yeah. And he just does it for free. He pays for his own flights out there. He pays for himself to put himself up in a room. Yeah. And it's cool to see people like that in the game because there's other coaches who are in it just for themselves or for the money. Yeah. And Henry, when he's got his guys, he cares about them.
No doubt. All right, so you get there now. You're full time on the team. What's the transition like now? Because you're coming from Cincinnati, basically, like coming from a small gym and going to a big gym. Yeah. How'd that feel?
Yeah, you basically go from being the big fish in a little pond to a little minnow in the ocean, essentially. I mean, it was like the first year and a half to 2 years down here, I would get the absolute worst butterflies on sparring days. Sure, Tuesday and Friday was worse than going into a fight for me now. Like I hated it. I dreaded it. Once I got through Friday, I knew I could just relax for the weekend.
2 days. 2 days you got.
2 days, and then it comes right back on Monday night because I'm used to being in Cincinnati where I'm beating up on everybody and doing what I want and wrestling, and I come down here and it's just one UFC guy after another, Bellator one, you name who. Yeah. And it's no easy rounds, and I'm just getting my ass beat for like a year. Yeah. I think it was just demoralizing.
I hear you on that. I think that you being that big fish in a small pond, getting your feet wet there, getting some confidence built up is the way to go. Yeah. I think a lot of guys, they go right into the big gyms and they get lost in the shuffle, and then they have no confidence whatsoever because they're always getting beat up. Yep. Some of them rise to the occasion because you're like, man, I'm fighting. Nobody is as near as good as who I'm sparring against. Some people are like that, but most of them, what I see is that the deterioration, and on top of that, you just become a sparring partner.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, you see guys get like punch shy when they just get beat up all the time, and then they just never learn to pull that trigger.
Yep.
Because they're always just hesitating all the time. So yeah, I think that was good for me to come from that in Cincinnati. But then at the same time, I had to go all through it again. So after that year and a half, eventually I started evening it out, and then I go back to handing out ass kickings eventually.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. Like when I would come down to spar at Top Team, we would always say like you go down there to test yourself, and then you go back up to where I was in Port St. Lucie, and you kind of just work your game.
Yeah.
So there's similar facts there. But
yeah.
So now, as far as your first pro fight, right? So you were an amateur before you got there.
Before I got there, yeah.
And then you turned pro when you got there.
I had one more amateur fight with them, and then I went pro.
How'd the first pro fight go? How'd you feel?
It was good. I mean, it was fun. I had I choked the dude out, put him to sleep in under 2 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was kind of quick.
Yeah. You didn't get your feet wet, totally.
No, not really. No.
What do you think is the major difference, like mentality-wise, from amateurs to pros?
I think in amateurs, a lot of guys are still in there kind of just figuring out and gaining experience and learning techniques and figuring out their style and what works for them and what not.
Yep.
But, I mean, once you go into the pros, like, it's do or die. Like, people are in there to do a job. We're there to get paid, take people out. And nowadays, it's all about violent finishes, and that's all that gets you to the UFC. So I encourage guys that are amateurs, get as many fights as you can before you go pro. Don't rush it at all, because I only had 2 amateur fights, and I went out to South Dakota where they don't care about how many you have, and skipped it. And so I basically was learning on the scene as a professional, still learning about myself, the way I fight, what works for me, what doesn't, changing this and that. And that's all stuff that you should be doing in amateur.
Yeah. Do you think that, with boxing, these guys, hundreds of amateur fights, right? But in MMA, you barely get maybe, nowadays they're doing a little bit more, but I only had 4 or 5 amateur fights too as well. What do you think is the main reason behind that, like there's so little amateur fights?
I think it's because if you are able to get the right, like, matchups or managers, then you can still kind of be fighting amateur level talent as a pro and still developing while building your record up.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that MMA and boxing is so much different is in the beginning of your careers is like guys are just padding the records basically. You're bringing in the A side, the B side. One side basically knows they're brought there to lose. And MMA is not really like that. Like both guys are there to win.
Yep.
But you still find guys trying to pad their records and fight losing opponents or this and that.
Yeah.
And so it gets tricky, I think, when you go pro, deciding on which route you're going to go. But I think it comes down to having a good manager, someone that's actually going to manage your career and give you the right fights, not opportunities.
Yeah.
Because an opportunity doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, I think also, with me and you, when we fought amateur, like there wasn't any shin pads, there wasn't bigger gloves, like it was basically
pro rules.
And even in Louisiana, we were getting hit with elbows.
Really?
So like I had 2 or 3 fights in Louisiana, and them guys don't care. Yeah. And it's just
like
all
the Wild West.
I think I told the story before, but I went there with another teammate of mine. He was a heavyweight, and he literally had like the old UFC gloves from like Walmart,
bro. Like the red ones with the red writing,
the old school, bro, like this thin, bro. And they were obviously too big for me, but I had no gloves because I thought that they were gonna give us gloves.
Okay.
So I had to borrow his gloves. I fought this dude who was like 32, 35 from like Mississippi. Poor guy, man. But yeah, that happens, and I'm like, well, all right. We're fighting, but we're fighting for no money.
Exactly.
Actually losing
You're
money.
pretty much paying to fight because you got to do
100%.
medicals and stuff still,
100%.
gas, whatnot.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, we might as well just go pro because we're doing the same thing. We're just not getting paid for it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of guys probably do go pro just because you're fighting pro rules. Why not?
And a lot of times guys are coming from different disciplines, and they're already at that elite level. Like you've had a wrestling background. I didn't know that you started in MMA first. I thought you started in wrestling first. That's interesting. So. That makes a little bit more sense now I get it, because like you like to punch people, so that's good. Make sure you watch the next fight too. We'll talk about that in a minute.
It'll be an exciting one.
Yep. So all right, now we get to Sanford. What's the first year like? How did it all like kind of, progress from there?
Like when I first got down here?
Yeah.
So I just pretty much just jumped straight in. Just going to all the practices I ended up fighting. We got an amateur fight like 3 or 4 months after I got down here in Tampa. And then
what was the amateur card in Tampa?
I forget the name.
WC something?
Something like that.
Yeah, I know.
I fought on like some roller hockey rink.
Yeah, that's right. That's about right. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I went up there, and then after that, I was like pretty much begging him to let me go pro because I was basically one of the only amateur guys on the team.
Gotcha.
And I just wanted to be like all the other guys.
Okay.
So we went pro, had my pro debut, and then pretty much from then on, I've just been going like getting fights.
How do you feel your game has increased so far? Because now, how many fights? 7, 8 fights now, right?
I've had 10 fights.
10 fights,
yep.
yeah. So
my 11th.
From then till now, I know you've made tremendous increases in just everything, not just your wrestling, not just your striking. You're working with Derek Santos too as well. Now, what do you feel that you present to this next opponent? And the next opponent is John Howard, by the way, ex-UFC veteran, and a very good matchup for you, right, from what I can see.
Yeah.
What do you think that you pose a threat to him with?
I mean, everywhere, honestly. And like I say that with 100% confidence. I just don't believe that he's the same striking as I am. He can't wrestle with me. He's not going to be able to grapple with me. The pace that I put up, I don't think that he can keep that up. From his fights, he likes to conserve his energy, from what I can see. Yeah. He doesn't really like to push the pace too much because he doesn't want to get tired.
Sure.
And then also with that, just my physicality. The way I fight, I'm an aggressive guy. I'm going to come in there and put it on him, and I just don't think that he's going to be able to withstand that for 3 rounds. Yeah. And this is not me taking anything away from him because I used to watch this dude on TV in high school. Like, I used to look up to him.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's like that saying, when your idols become your rivals. I respect him 100%. But when we get in the cage, there's a job to be done.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just feel like no matter where it goes, no matter what happens in there, I'm going to be better than him in every aspect of this fight.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And, so I'm excited, though. But it's, like I said, I used to watch this dude on TV. I'm sharing the car with some other UFC vets. But it's the passing of the torch. He's done it. He had 14 fights in the UFC. It's time for me to go get mine.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been down here working for 5 years. Like you said, my game I've had opportunities in the past, these last 5 years, to catapult myself into those big organizations. And I had some slip-ups because might not have been ready for it at the time.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I look back on it now. At the time, I hated it, but now I'm like so thankful for it that God put me through all those lessons, because if I were to get into the UFC before, I would not have been ready for it.
Yep.
But now I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's in due time.
It's all on His plan,
For sure, 100%. I told you that, like, we've been working together for a while now, and I could see it. You're obviously one of the best athletes that we have in the gym, hands down. You're strong, you're powerful, you have great conditioning, right? Your mindset's there. Putting it all together, when the time comes, you'll be able to do it. And now, like I said, I think that it takes a good amount of time to get your feet wet. Like, not just like as a pro, but even at the pro higher levels. And then from there, that's when you can truly put everything together.
Yeah.
And so it just, in due time, and everybody's got a different time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So with that, you've been able to get your hands and spar with some great talent, right? You got Kamaru Usman, right? Michael Chandler, right? How do you fare with Kamaru Usman? And also, I want to talk about his next fight with Colby Covington. So, what do you think of Kamaru? How's he train? How's he go around in the gym?
I mean, he lives the champion lifestyle, and I mean, obviously, he's the champion for a reason, because he lives that every day, all day long. And that was one thing that I really made sure to look at, was every time I was around him, just watch what he does, just all the time, just how he lives his life to the T. I've pretty much tried to copy the exact blueprint and live my life the exact same way that he does. Like, he's kind of like, I look at him like a mentor, because I'm always, like, if I called him right now, he'll pick up. Like, he's always there for me, giving me advice and stuff.
Sure.
But, like, the way he lives his life is different than other guys in the sport.
Yeah.
And there's guys that say they want to be fighters, and then there's guys that are fighters, and then there's guys that want to be champions. And there's a difference in wanting to be a champion and living like a champion. And the one thing that I learned from him the most is he has been living like a champion before he was the champion. You can't just all of a sudden win the belt and then expect to live a champion lifestyle.
Sure.
It's not going to happen like that. So being around him, that's one thing that really rubbed off on me, is like that and his work ethic. And I mean, obviously he's a great training partner to be around, because no matter what anybody else shows me, it's not going to be the level that he's showing me. So like in the fights, I know whatever this guy throws at me, I've already seen it 1,000 times before.
Gotcha.
On higher levels. Like he might have some things that he's good at, what he's not good at, but I'm not worried about it.
So with this fight he's got coming up, what do you see happening in the fight with Kobe?
You know, I think I've been able to, because he bounces back and forth from Colorado and here, so I've been able to train with him still.
Yeah.
And after, like, just a few months ago, I was sparring with him, and he's like, his game has jumped up significantly since he's been out there with Trevor. Like, his striking is just Henry really got him good with the in and out and the pressure game, but like his footwork and stuff is just phenomenal now. He's always hitting foot, and the way he changes the pace too. I don't really know if Kobe's done much to change his game at all, but if he hasn't, then he's going to be in for a rude awakening that night, because I think Kamaru's going to put it on him.
Yeah, man, Trevor Whitman's a mastermind when it comes to boxing and MMA, man. Shout out to Trevor Whitman, by the way. All right, so now, and then Michael Chandler. We got one more.
Yeah, Michael's another guy that I can say that I've also taken some stuff from the way he lives his life and added it to mine, because he's another guy that lives that champion lifestyle to the T, like the way he eats, his supplementation, his sleep, his recovery, the way he talks and carries himself and speaks out loud.
I had a good conversation when we actually went to dinner not too long ago, and Kevin James too. Shout out to Kevin James, my man. But yeah, Michael definitely he does live a champion's lifestyle. He is a champion in his mind. And I mean, he was a champion before in other promotions, so I can get that. I understand where he's coming from and where you're coming from with that. Now, when it comes down to training, which one's harder to train with?
Kamaru's.
Well, he's a little bit bigger, obviously.
He's a little bit bigger than
me. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, me and him have gone back and forth at each other for years. I mean, there's rounds where I've gotten him, and there's rounds where he's gotten me. But it's always intense when me and him are going at it, because now we know each other so well that we know what we like to do.
Yeah.
So it gets kind of fun when we start sparring, because you know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
So what's the plans after this fight? I know you're not looking past John, but what do you want to accomplish after this fight?
You know, I want to go out there next weekend and put on a devastating finish. That's the only thing that's been in my mind this whole entire fight camp every day, motivating me, is go out there and just bring violence, because that's what I need to get into the UFC. So after I do that next Saturday, I do believe I'm going to get that phone call. I've said it before in the past, and every time I've been wrong so far, but hey, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep saying it till the damn phone call comes.
That's it.
Because this is something that I set out to do when I was 15 and went into the gym the first time. I was like, I want to fight in the UFC. And that's all it's ever been for me. And no matter how long it takes me to get there, I'm going to make it happen. But I truly believe that everything's coming around and is going to catch, next weekend's going to be my coming out party, basically. That's how I'm kind of feeling about it.
Yeah, it's a culmination of all your hard work, your dedication. I see it all the time. And I know you're itching, because I could always see it in your face, and I could always see it in your attitude, which is, it's a good attitude to have, So with that, let's just have faith, and we'll go from there. Now, this episode is going to be dropped right before his fight, so make sure you guys check out the fight. Where's it going to be at?
It's going to be at the Watsco Center in Coral Gables, but you'll be able to catch it on xmma.com.
Okay.
They stream it for free. They're big on all the fans being able to watch it for free, because they want to put on good fights and let everybody see it without having to pay for it.
What's the promotion?
XMMA.
XMMA.
It'll be XMMA 3 Vice City.
Gotcha. Vice City. Yeah. And also check out Tyler's Instagram. Go ahead.
Wolverine _170.
Yep. And then you can get all the information there. He's going to get a website soon. I make sure he's going to get that. Maybe a YouTube channel. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see. Then we'll drop a podcast. Whatever. We'll keep it going. Thanks, T. I appreciate you, man. All right, guys. That's it. Make sure you follow this man. I'll see you next time.